What happens when a person who has been dead for hours suddenly comes back to life? Throughout history, people have searched for answers about life, death, and the power of God. The Bible contains many stories of incredible miracles, but one of the most unusual is found in the final days of the Prophet Elisha. It is not a story about a famous king, a great battle, or a powerful army. It is the story of an ordinary man, a forgotten moment, and a miracle that happened even after God's servant was gone. This is the story of the man who touched Elisha's bones and came back to life. Many years before this strange event took place, there lived a prophet named Elisha. Elisha was the successor of the famous prophet Elijah. After Elijah was taken up to heaven, Elisha continued the work of delivering God's message to the people of Israel. During his lifetime, Elisha witnessed and performed many miracles. He helped a poor widow by multiplying her small amount of oil until she had enough to survive. He healed a powerful army, commander named Naaman, from a terrible disease. He even helped a woman's son return to life. Through Elisha, people witnessed signs of God's compassion and power, but eventually, even this great prophet grew old. Like every human being, Elisha's life on earth came to an end. Near the end of his life, Elisha became sick. The Bible tells us that King Joash of Israel visited him and wept over him. The king understood that Israel was losing not just a prophet, but a spiritual leader who had guided the nation through difficult times. After years of serving God, Elisha died, and just like any other person, his body was buried. A tomb was prepared, and his remains were placed inside. At that moment, it seemed that Elisha's story had ended, but God was not finished revealing his power through him. After Elisha's death, Israel continued to face many struggles. The nation was often attacked by neighboring enemies, especially the Moabites. The people lived in uncertain and dangerous times. One day, a group of Israelites were carrying a dead man to his burial place. The Bible does not tell us who this man was. We do not know his name. We do not know his family. We do not know what kind of life he lived. He was simply an ordinary person whose story was almost forgotten. But what happened next made his story unforgettable. As the men were carrying the body, they suddenly saw a group of Moabite raiders approaching. The Moabites were enemies who frequently attacked Israel. Fear immediately took over. The men carrying the body realized they were in danger. They had no time to prepare a proper burial. They had to escape quickly, so they looked for the nearest place to hide, and that place happened to be a tomb. The men rushed toward the tomb and threw the dead man inside. But this was no ordinary tomb. It was the resting place of the prophet Elisha. The body fell onto Elisha's bones, and then something incredible happened. The moment the dead man touched the bones of Elisha, the man suddenly came back to life. The Bible says, when the man touched the bones of Elisha, he revived and stood up on his feet. A man who had been dead was alive again. He opened his eyes. He breathed again. He stood up. A moment earlier, he was lifeless. Now he was alive. Imagine being there. Imagine being one of the men who ran away from the attackers. You enter a tomb expecting only darkness and silence. But suddenly, the person you carried inside is standing alive. The shock, fear, and amazement must have been overwhelming. This was not something anyone could explain through human ability. It was a miracle. But why did this miracle happen? Why would God bring someone back to life through the bones of a prophet who had already died? The story teaches several powerful lessons. First, it shows that God's power does not depend on human strength. Elisha was no longer alive. He could no longer preach, perform miracles, or speak to people. Yet God's power was still greater than death itself. The miracle was not because Elisha's bones had magical power. The power belonged to God. Throughout the Bible, death is shown as something humans cannot overcome on their own. Kings die, warriors die, prophets die. Every person eventually faces death. But this story reminds us that God is not limited by the boundaries of human life. The same God who gave life in the beginning has power over life and death. Another important lesson is that God often works in ways people do not expect. Nobody planned this miracle. Nobody prayed for it. Nobody even knew it was about to happen. The men carrying the body were simply trying to escape danger. But in that unexpected moment, they witnessed something extraordinary. Sometimes the greatest moments happen when people least expect them. Elisha's life also teaches another important lesson. Even after he was gone, his influence remained. The prophet had spent his life serving God and helping others. His actions continued to point people toward God even after his death. A person's impact is not measured only by what they accomplish while they are alive. The way they live can continue affecting others long after they are gone. The story of the man who touched Elisha's bones is short. It takes only a few verses in the Bible, but behind those verses is a powerful message. It reminds us that God can bring hope in hopeless situations. A dead man received life. A forgotten person became part of a story, remembered for thousands of years. Prophet who had passed away became connected to one final miracle. The story shows that God's power is not limited by time, circumstances, or even death itself. The Bible contains many stories of kings, battles, and great leaders. But sometimes the most powerful stories are about ordinary people, a man with no recorded name, a group of frightened people, a forgotten tomb, and a miracle that showed the world that God's power is greater than anything humans can understand. The story of Elisha's bones is a reminder that even when something seems finished, God can still bring new life, because where humans see an ending, God can create a beginning.